My name is Karen Bird. I'm 29 years old, and I used to think the worst thing my sister could do was embarrass me in front of other people. I didn't realize she was capable of quietly dismantling my life and then standing there crying while everyone blamed me for the damage. My older sister, Ilara Bird, is 33, and in our family, she has always been described as complicated, which really means she breaks things and everyone else is expected to clean up the pieces. Growing up, Ilara was the kind of beautiful people excuse without thinking. She could be rude, impulsive, even cruel, and somehow it turned into a story about how sensitive she was. Meanwhile, if I made a small mistake, I was careless, selfish, difficult. That difference shaped everything. I became the easy daughter, the reliable one, the one who handled things quietly so no one had to deal with another Ilara crisis. I got good grades, worked through college, paid my own bills, showed up to every family dinner with something in my hands and a smile I practiced on the drive over. Ilara drifted. Jobs, relationships, money. Always one step away from another emergency. Always landing back in the center of everyone's concern. The strange part is, I loved her. When she was kind, she was magnetic. She made you feel chosen, like you mattered more than anyone else in the room. And then, without warning, she could say something so casually cutting, it would take hours to realize how deep it went. I didn't fully understand that pattern until much later. And by then, it was already too late. Then I met Daniel. He wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. He was steady, observant, quietly funny. We met at work, nothing cinematic, just two people sitting too long at their desks, until he leaned over one day and said, "You know they legally have to let you go outside, right?" I laughed, and somehow that turned into daily conversations, then lunches, then him showing up with coffee exactly the way I liked it, after hearing me order it once. He paid attention in a way I wasn't used to. He made me feel safe, not dazzled, and that difference meant everything. We were together for 3 years before he proposed, and it was simple and perfect. Early morning, a cold dock, terrible coffee, both of us shaking more than we expected. When we got back, my mom insisted on hosting an engagement party. "Just family and close friends," she said, which in our world meant chaos disguised as celebration. Still, I said yes. I wanted one moment that felt uncomplicated. That's when Ilara became interested in my life in a way that didn't feel like support, more like intrusion. She asked everything. Details about the wedding, about Daniel, about our schedules, about money, about things that didn't feel like her business. She texted constantly, at first joking, then shifting into something harder to define. One night she sent, "Do you ever worry you're giving him a smaller life than he deserves?" I stared at it, confused, then told myself it was nothing. I ignored it. I ignored a lot of things. 2 days before the party, Daniel mentioned casually that Ilara had texted him directly, asking if we could come early to help set up. That was the first moment something didn't sit right. She could have asked me. Instead, she went around me. It was small, easy to dismiss, but it stayed in the back of my mind like something unfinished. Friday came, and everything started to feel slightly off. I arrived early to help my mom. Ilara was late, which wasn't surprising, but Daniel was late too, which was. I texted him, no response. I called, voicemail. That wasn't like him, not even a little. By the time Ilara finally walked in, wearing a cream dress just close enough to white to make people glance between us, I was already on edge. She smiled like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just shifted the air in the room. My mom smoothed it over instantly, redirecting attention, pretending not to notice. That's how it always worked. problems didn't get addressed, they got covered. I went upstairs to breathe, to try Daniel again, to convince myself everything was normal. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, one image. I opened it, and my entire body went cold. It was a screenshot of messages between Daniel and Alara. Suggestive, tense, incomplete but unmistakably wrong. And then another message came. Ask her where she was yesterday afternoon. I sat there, staring at the screen, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might split something open inside me. Then I stood up, walked back downstairs, and into a room full of people who had no idea that in less than a minute, everything was about to break. I didn't think. That's the only explanation I have for what I did next. I walked straight into the middle of the room, phone in my hand, and said, "Alara, where were you yesterday afternoon?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. Conversations didn't stop all at once. They faded, like someone slowly turning down the volume of the room. Alara turned toward me, wine glass halfway to her lips, her expression shifting from mild annoyance to something sharper. "Excuse me?" My mom immediately stepped in, that tight, warning smile already in place. "Karen, not now." I ignored her. I could feel something in my chest cracking open. "Where were you yesterday afternoon?" I repeated, louder this time, my hand trembling as I lifted my phone. Alara looked around, already irritated. "What kind of question is that?" I stepped closer. "Then explain this." She took the phone, glanced at the screen, and for a fraction of a second, I saw it. Recognition. Then it vanished, replaced by disbelief so perfectly performed, it almost convinced me. "Are you serious right now?" She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You're doing this at your own engagement party?" My stomach dropped. That answer wasn't denial. It was deflection. My mom rushed between us. "What is going on?" I swallowed hard, my throat tight as I glanced at the empty space near the patio doors where Daniel should have been. "I'd love to know that too," I said. "Since my fiancé is missing and my sister is apparently texting him behind my back." The room went completely silent. Alara set her glass down with careful precision. "I don't know what kind of spiral you're having," she said calmly, "but don't drag me into it." Calm. That was her weapon. Calm made me look unstable. I shook my head. "Did he come see you yesterday?" "No," she said instantly, too quickly. My dad stepped forward, his voice firm. "Enough." I turned to him, heat rising behind my eyes. "No, not enough." I held up the phone again. "She's been messaging him. She went around me." Alara crossed her arms, unfazed. "About the party, which you know because you're literally holding it in your hand like it's evidence of something." The room shifted, subtly, people leaning away from me instead of her. That familiar, sickening pattern. Then my mom said it. "Karen, you've always been sensitive when it comes to your sister." The word hit me harder than anything else. Sensitive. Like I was imagining it. Like I always imagined it. I laughed, but it came out wrong. "Sensitive? My fiancé is missing and you think this is me being sensitive?" Her expression hardened. "Since you were a teenager, every little thing she does, you twist into some kind of attack." I felt something inside me snap. Not loudly, quietly. Like something giving way after years of pressure. Before I could respond, the patio door opened. Daniel walked in. Every head turned. He looked wrong. Pale, exhausted, like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair slightly damp like he'd been running his hands through it too much. He froze when he saw all of us staring at him, and before I could say his name, Elara started crying. Instantly. Like someone flipped a switch. She covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. "I can't believe you told her like this," she said, her voice breaking. The room shifted again, this time violently. My mom rushed to her side. "Told her what?" Elara looked at Daniel, then at me, her expression full of hurt. "I asked you for 1 day." My heart dropped into my stomach. I turned to Daniel, my voice barely above a whisper. "What is she talking about?" He stepped forward, hesitant, guilt written all over his face. "Karen..." That one word told me everything and nothing all at once. My pulse roared in my ears. "Say it," I said. "Whatever this is, just say it." Elara sat down, still crying, my aunt wrapping an arm around her like she was the one who'd been wronged. My mom shot me a look like I had just attacked someone fragile. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "There's something you need to know," he said. I felt dizzy. My mind was already racing toward the worst possibilities. "Did you sleep with her?" I asked bluntly. The words landed like glass hitting tile. Gasps. Silence. Daniel's head snapped up. "No, God, no!" Relief hit me, but it didn't stay, because his face still looked like that. Guilty. Heavy. "Then what?" I demanded. He hesitated, glancing at Elara, then back at me. "She borrowed money from me." The room didn't react at first, like it didn't understand the weight of what he'd just said. I blinked. "How much?" I asked slowly. He swallowed. 20,000. Everything inside me went still, completely still. "That's our wedding money," I said, my voice hollow. He nodded, barely. "I know." I turned to Elara, who was now crying harder, shaking her head like she was overwhelmed. "Why?" I asked. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. She covered her face. "I didn't want to tell you like this," she sobbed. "I didn't want to ruin your happiness." My hands clenched at my sides. "Why did you take it?" She hesitated, just long enough to make it clear she was choosing her answer. "I have debt," she said finally. "I've been trying to fix it." Daniel stepped in quietly. "It's gambling, Karen. She's been dealing with it for a while." The word hung in the air. Gambling. Suddenly, everything clicked into place in the worst possible way. The disappearances, the borrowed money, the chaos. I felt like I was going to be sick. "You gave her our money?" I turned back to Daniel. "Without telling me?" He flinched. "She said it was urgent. She said she would pay it back before you ever noticed. I didn't want to stress you before the wedding." I stared at him, disbelief cutting deeper than anger. "So you lied?" "I was trying to help," he said quietly. "You were helping her lie to me," I shot back. Elara let out another broken sob. "I didn't want you to hate me," she said. "I was going to fix it." And just like that, I saw it happening again. The shift. My mom turned toward her immediately, voice soft. "Oh, honey." My dad sighed heavily, like this was an unfortunate situation we all needed to handle gently. Not like something had just been stolen from me. Not like my trust had been torn open in front of everyone I knew. I stood there, looking at all of them, realizing with a clarity that made my chest ache that this was not the first time this had happened. It was just the biggest. I kept waiting for it. The moment someone would turn to me and say this wasn't okay, that what she did mattered, that what he did mattered. But it didn't come. Instead, my mom wrapped her arms around Alara like she was the one falling apart. "It's a crisis," she said softly to the room. "We need to focus on getting her help." I let out a quiet, disbelieving laugh. "A crisis?" I repeated. "She took $20,000 from us. She lied. He lied. And this is what you're calling it?" My mom's expression tightened, already irritated with me. "Karen, this isn't about you right now." That sentence landed harder than anything else that night. Not about me. Of course it wasn't. It never had been. I looked around the room, at relatives avoiding my eyes, at friends standing awkwardly near the walls, at my dad rubbing his forehead like this was just another exhausting situation to get through. And something in me finally stopped trying. "I am your daughter too," I said, my voice shaking now despite how hard I tried to keep it steady. "Why is it always her?" No one answered. Alara sobbed louder, burying her face in her hands. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said. "I was scared." I stared at her. "You were scared?" I repeated. "So you took my money. You went behind my back. You dragged him into it. And somehow I'm the one who's supposed to understand?" She flinched, but only just enough. "I thought you'd overreact," she whispered. That was it. That was the truth underneath everything. She hadn't told me because she knew I wouldn't accept it. Because she knew, for once, I might actually say no. I turned to Daniel again. "And you," I said quietly. "You decided that was fine?" He shook his head quickly. "No, it wasn't fine. I thought I could fix it before it got to you." "Fix it?" I let out a hollow laugh. "By hiding it? By letting me plan a wedding with money that was already gone?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "She told me she'd pay it back in a few weeks. She said it was temporary." I shook my head slowly. "You believed her?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. And then, like it wasn't already enough, Alara spoke again. "You're making this bigger than it is," she said through her tears. I turned toward her so fast it made my vision blur. "Bigger than it is?" I repeated. "You tried to make it look like he was cheating on me." The room shifted again, confusion rippling through it. My mom frowned. "What are you talking about?" I held up my phone, my hand steadier now. "The messages, the screenshot, the anonymous number." I looked directly at Alara. "That was you." She blinked just once, and in that second I saw it again, that flicker of calculation. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. But her voice wasn't as convincing this time. Daniel frowned, turning toward her. "Wait, what?" I stepped closer, my voice low. "You needed time," I said. "You needed him to stay quiet until you could figure out how to spin this. So you made it look like something else. You made it look like he was hiding something worse." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Daniel's face changed as the realization hit him. "Alara," he said slowly. She shook her head, tears falling harder. "I was trying to protect myself," she said. "I didn't know what else to do." "You mean you didn't know how to keep lying?" I said. My mom stepped in again, sharp now. "That's enough, Karen." I stared at her, something cold settling in my chest. "No," I said. "I think I'm finally done saying enough." I looked at all of them, really looked this time, and realized none of them were going to hold her accountable. Not tonight. Not ever. Because they never had. So I reached up, slowly, and took off my engagement ring. The room seemed to shrink as I held it in my palm for a second, feeling the weight of everything it had meant. Then I walked over to Daniel and placed it in his hand. He looked at me like I'd just shattered something. "Karen, don't... I can't marry someone who lies to me," I said quietly. "Even if you thought it was for the right reason." His voice broke. "I was trying to protect you." I shook my head. "No, you were protecting her." I didn't look at Alara again. I didn't look at my parents. I just turned and walked out, past the decorations, past the food, past the life I had been building, and out into the night air that felt too cold for the middle of a celebration. Tessa followed me without saying a word. I didn't make it far before everything hit me at once. The shock, the betrayal, the realization that I had just lost my fiancé, and, in a way that felt deeper, my family too. I broke down on the sidewalk, my hands shaking, my chest aching like something inside me had been torn open. The next morning, my phone was full. Messages from my mom, my dad, relatives, not asking if I was okay, not acknowledging what had happened, just variations of the same thing. "You shouldn't have handled it like that. You embarrassed your sister. You made things worse. You overreacted." I read them all, one after another, until the words blurred together into something numb. By the end of the day, the story had already started to shift. Somehow, I had become the one who ruined the party. Alara was the one getting help, the one people felt sorry for. Daniel came to see me a few days later. He looked just as exhausted as he had that night. He apologized, over and over, explaining that he never cheated, that he panicked, that he thought he could fix it before I ever knew. I believed him. That was the worst part. I believed him, and it still didn't change what he did. Loving someone who lied to you doesn't magically make the lie disappear. It just makes it hurt more. We didn't get back together. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't trust what we had anymore. I stopped going to family dinners. I stopped answering most calls. I moved, quietly, without telling many people where. My mom still sends messages sometimes, guilt wrapped in concern, asking when I'm going to let this go and come back. Like I'm the one who left something whole behind. Some days, I feel free in a way I never have before. Other days, it feels like I lost everything in a single night. But the question that stays with me, the one I still turn over in my mind when it's quiet, is this: did I walk away from my family, or did I finally stop letting them walk over me?